Hi everybody, so today is wood grain pattern. I love this design. I used this on so many people last fall and I've had a couple requests for it again, and it seemed like the perfect time of year to bring out this design because it's fall and it's woodsy and it's earthy, and you can pair this with pumpkins and leaves and dark greens and gold glitters and all these wonderful things. So we're going to learn how to do a wood grain pattern. Don't be scared, it's actually not that hard. I know it looks a little bit more intimidating than it really is, but once you see how we're going to blend the colors, how we're going to create this little knotted wood effect, it's quite simple. It doesn't take a long time to do. Definitely book a little bit more time with your service if you're going to be adding this in. I would book, if somebody wanted like say 2 or 3 nails with this, I'd be booking an extra 15 or 20 minutes. So do give yourself a little bit more time for this design. Not a ton, but a little bit, depending on how many nails you're doing as well. I think it's just a really neat add-on, and it's kind of cool to offer something really unique to your clients that maybe no one else in your area has done yet. So I've got 3 different styles of colors here. This is the one that we're going to be doing today. This is the one that was the most popular, was the sort of lighter tone, the more natural, earthy kind of brown tones. I did do one up with whites and grays, and then this one, it's not really showing up too well on film, but it's more darker browns with a little bit of blondie brown in there as well. But we're going to be working on this one today, okay? So what I'm going to be using are my options colors today. You guys can use whatever brand that you have, but I found that these ones work, these color arrangements work really good. You'll want a couple different shades of brown, a black. I do have a off-white. I'm going to be using Luxio Finesse, and I'm going to be using my Luxio Gloss, and I'm also going to be using a matte top coat as well. You're going to need your working gel brush. This is my Oval 111, and you're also going to need a detail brush as well. So not a lot of stuff. Oh, and you're gonna need a mixing palette as well. I've just mixed a few colors to blend a few of the browns together. So you don't need a lot to do this design, which is kind of nice. But you just want to make sure you have a nice mix of browns. If you don't have browns on hand, you can definitely do this with the white and the gray tones if you want to. And see what you can kind of mix up. Don't be afraid to mix your colors too. Like if you guys don't have the specific browns that I do, if you want to take maybe say your lighter brown, mix it a little bit darker to create your variegated color pattern that you need, you totally can. Don't be afraid to mix your colors together. So see what you got in your drawer. If you choose to do something completely different than what I'm doing, go for it. Let me see what you can do with what you have. I know a brown scale color palette isn't something that people always have in stock, but if you want to use maybe say lighter beiges or some tans, try mixing it around too, because when you look at a piece of wood, you could be looking at like a really blondie lighter tone or more of a natural earthy tone like these ones. So these are just some samples I did up. If you guys choose to use like lighter colors, feel free to use lighter colors as well. If you want to even Google like a picture of wood and see what it looks like, if you want to get those lighter tones just to make the colors more realistic, you totally can, okay? The one thing I want you guys to pay attention to too is when you're doing the knots, these little pieces of knots in the wood, you want to make sure that they're staggered. Not every piece of wood has perfect knots lined up exactly, so I did 3 kind of per piece. I like I like odd numbers better than even numbers, so if I'm gonna do 1, I would do that, or 3. I wouldn't do 2. Maybe it depends on the size of the nail, but I would make them staggered. So if you're doing 3 knots in your little design here, make sure they're staggered. They're not even straight across. If you want to do 1 big one, maybe you could just do 1 kind of off to the side, and then we can just kind of variegate the colors around it. There's lots of things you can do. I just prefer the look of the odd number to the even. That's just my own personal choice. So we'll play around with this. You guys show me what you can create, show me what you can do. There's no exact right or wrong for this pattern. It's more just learning how to blend the colors and make them look a bit variegated and not perfect, because a piece of wood is not all the same color all the way through, okay? Blending will take a little bit of time if you're not used to working with different shades and palettes, but once you get the hang of this, You will love this design. So what I've done is I've already prepped my tip here. I'm just using a coat of Luxio Finesse. This is just a really soft white. I've done one coat of color. And even when I would do these on clients, I like that soft white in the background. It just kind of gives it a little bit more lightness through the brown tones. I didn't make this 2 coats because I don't want a perfect coat of color. What we want to see as we're doing this design is the highs and the lows through the brown. We want to have that sort of natural kind of look come out through the brown tones. So I've done 1 coat of white, and you can see it's a little bit see-through. That's fine. Don't you worry about it. I'm going to start with, I've got sweet maple here, maple sugar, and divine cocoa. Okay. I'm going to start with my 2 lighter tones, the sweet maple and the maple sugar. And I'm just going to pick some up on my brush. Can you guys see here okay? I think so. I'm going to pick some up on my brush, and I'm just going to kind of like dry brush this on over top of the white. Okay. It's not going to be even. It's not going to be perfect, which is just fine. Don't worry about that. Now what I'm going to do is take the side of my brush. I'm just going to draw some lines down through it. Okay? Now by doing this, what we're getting is the highs and lows of the color that we want to see. All right? I'm also going to take my slightly darker brown. I'm going to do the exact same thing I just did. I'm going to sort of a dry brush on top of this. And grab a little bit more here. I'm just going to drag my brush on the side through a little bit. Okay, let's see how that looks. That's all we're doing to start with. So this is okay that this is how your first layer looks, okay? I'm going to freeze cure that, throw that in the light. Now I am using my Akzentz Hybrid Pro. It's the LED light. So I'm only going to freeze cure for a few seconds. If you're using your UV light, then freeze cure for a little bit longer. So let's grab that out of there. I'm going to come back and do the exact same thing. Just lightly brush over the top. And make sure that even when you get to the top of your client's finger, you're still covering, and the sides, that you're still covering the sides where the white is. You don't want big chunks of white poking out like that, okay? I'll come in with my slightly darker, different shade of brown. Oh, I got a little fuzz on there. Let's get rid of that. Okay, so see how that looks? Now, what I have done is mixed a little bit of my Divine Cocoa with this mid-tone brown, the maple sugar, on my palette here. And I'm just going to lightly brush a little bit of that through as well. I could use the Divine Cocoa straight, but it's just a little bit dark, I think, today for what I'm actually looking for. And I'm just going to turn the side of my brush a little bit. I don't want a big solid chunk of dark brown, but I just want like a little bit. So I'm just going to pull that through. Okay. So this is kind of what you want to end up with, is this sort of look. Multi-tones, you got a little bit of the light layer showing through, a little bit of dark, and that's perfect, okay? So we're gonna cure that, we're gonna give it its full cure. So I'm just gonna mix up a little bit more of my Divine Cocoa, a little bit of my black, so I have like a mid-tone dark brown. If you already have a nice mid-tone dark brown that you like, go ahead and use it, totally do. I'm just going to mix just because in that way the colors sort of stay within the same family, which I love. I've also mixed up a little bit of my Finesse with a little bit of my Luxio Gloss just to make a clear white. And then I've also kind of mixed a little bit of that with my mid-tone brown here as well. Okay. So I like having different colors to play around with. If I want to add a little bit of color into my design, I've already kind of got the colors going. Okay. So this is going to be very similar to how we do a wet marbling technique. I'm just going to put on a really thin layer of Luxio Gloss and draw in with my detail brush the knots in the wood. Okay. So we don't want to flood the nail with our gloss. We just want it to be on there so we have like a little bit of slip and glide. And just brush that on. And then I will take my Gel Art Black and start drawing some lines. Now, I get asked a lot about Gel Art Black versus Gel Play versus Luxio Noir. It's personal preference, okay? There's nothing wrong with any one of them. I personally like marbling with the Gel Art Black because the options colors are right in between consistencies of the Gel Play and the Luxio. Some people love Luxio for marbling. I kind of like this one. I just like the mid-range consistency that it is. It doesn't spread immediately, but it does have a nice flow to it. So if you guys prefer using your gel paints or the Luxio gel polish, whatever you prefer, grab that one. This is my go-to. I just prefer it a little bit better for marbling. And that sort of look where you have that nice flow to your gels without being too runny. Okay, so I'm gonna we'll kind of keep this kind of idea going with the 3. Or maybe we can just do one gigantic knot. No, let's stick with 3. So I will start on the side. And this is just, I mean, I know I use the word abstract and random a lot, but it is an abstract random thing. If you can sort of keep in mind how a knot in a piece of wood looks. And I'm just kind of wiggling my brush as I'm doing this. Okay. And the Luxio Gloss will allow your color to run a little bit and be a little bit squiggly. That's perfect. Don't worry about it. That's what we want to see. Okay. Is that making sense to you guys so far? We're going to come back and touch this up, so don't panic if it starts to run a little tiny bit. It's okay. And a knot of wood usually has a little bit on the top and a little bit on the bottom, like a bit of a tail and a little bit coming up the top too. And we'll just add a little bit in the center there. I'm just going to wipe the excess off of my brush. And the wonderful thing is with this design, they're not always going to be cookie cutter the same. So, I mean, just because you may have done this design on 5 different clients, let's say, because it's been a huge hit for your shop, you can do every single one differently. So not everyone's going to be walking out with the exact same design, which I think is pretty cool. Because I'm sure we've all had that happen where you do that wicked set of nails on somebody and then like 6 people come in, they're like, I want that. And you're like, oh man, everyone's wearing the same thing. Yes and no, because this is going to be a little bit different for everybody. So you can see how the Luxio Gloss is letting that black kind of disperse and just kind of do its own thing, which is great because a knot in a piece of wood it's not like perfect lines. It's got a little bit of its own thing going on. So we're going to work a little bit quickly here with this. What I am going to do is take a little bit of this clear, the finesse, and this brown that I've mixed together. And I'm just going to put a little bit inside one of these. Because sometimes a knot in a piece of wood has its own little distinct coloration. I'm going to throw a little bit of a clear white maybe in this guy here, just in the center. And that's a little bit too white maybe. Let's throw a bit of brown in there, just to add a little bit of depth, a little bit of something something in there. You can see what that does already. It's made a huge change to how that looks, to the realistic kind of tone of how that's going to look. Okay, now while this is still a little bit tacky as well, I'm going to take a little bit of my Divine Cocoa that I've mixed with a little bit of black, and I'm just going to run some lines down around the edges here of these and add a little bit more depth to my colors. And again, the Luxio Gloss is allowing these colors to just move around and play and become something that's very natural looking and not structured at all. And I'm just going to throw a little bit down here. And I think I'm going to take a little tiny bit of black. Whoops, that's too much. And pop that right on in the center there. There. Let's get rid of these up top here. So there's no like exact pattern or science to how these turn out, but it's all in layering and how you look at this design and you go, maybe I could add a little bit more here or a little bit more there without going too crazy and making it too over the top. You can still do a very natural looking wood grain design and have something really cool for your clients. So I'm going to cure this. Don't be scared off by this one, you guys. It's actually very easy. It's very simple to do. Layer your colors together and blend them and you're going to make something really awesome. It took me, I don't know, 2 or 3 tries maybe to sort of find the right color combinations too. So once you have the right colors down, it just becomes that much easier. Okay, so I did do these both glossy and matte, and I definitely prefer them matte. Glossy is fine too. It's all client preference, but I do find I like the look of these finished with a matte top coat. I just think they're sort of a little bit more earthy looking, and a matte finish just sort of suits these better than glossy, in my mind anyway. You're welcome to make yours glossy, have a blast at it, go for it, but I personally like matte. So I have for you guys set up a Facebook page. If you haven't already joined the group, I'm going to show you my Facebook page here really quick. Sorry, my phone decided to not agree. If you haven't already joined, this is the Facebook page that we have set up for all our students on the nail files, which is, look this up, the nail files, Robyn Schwartz students. I will add you guys in. There's a couple questions that you have to answer so I know which classes you've taken and how you found us. And join. You guys can post all of your work on there. I will help you with anything that you need help with. If you're stuck with color combinations, designs, all those things, whatever you need, post your work on there. I'll give you pointers, maybe little tips that you could make your design a little bit nicer. If you're stuck, I'll totally help you. So go ahead and join the group, post your work up on there, and we will have a chat on Facebook. So hopefully you guys can do something really cool. I'm excited to see what color combinations you come up with and what you can add on to this design in a set of nails that would make it super fall. Awesome. So hopefully we can do great nails. Thank you guys so much for watching today, and I'll see you all on Facebook. Bye.